Islamic Republic of Iran were confronted with ISIS-style acts of terrorism.
As Iran reels from widespread nationwide protests, a senior government official has made a startling claim about the nature of the unrest, suggesting it involves organized violent actors. The Iranian official told the Russian outlet RT that Islamic State-like terrorist elements have allegedly infiltrated the ongoing demonstrations across the country. He further stated that these terrorists are using violent methods and tactics that he said were reminiscent of Islamic State's previous actions in conflict zones. According to the official, these armed elements have, in his words, been instructed from abroad to open fire directly on both protesters and police forces inside Iran. The same official also claimed that members of these alleged terrorist cells had carried out beheadings of Iranian law enforcement officers during the unrest. He added that these attackers, in some cases, burned people alive and then deliberately finished off those who were already wounded and unable to flee. The official further alleged that rioters were intentionally targeting religious buildings and commercial businesses, according to his account cited by RT. Reports attributed to Iranian sources say that, in Tehran alone, at least 26 banks and 25 mosques have been set on fire since the protests intensified. First responders have also reportedly been attacked, with accounts stating that 53 fire engines were targeted and 8 of those vehicles were completely destroyed. The Iranian official said that these alleged terrorist cell members were being generously reimbursed with funds sent from abroad to support their activities. He specified that attacking a police station was, according to these claims, worth around $600, while torching a state-owned vehicle was valued at about $300. Iran's foreign minister also wrote a letter to the UN Secretary-General, in which he alleged that Daesh-like acts and operations were taking place inside Iran. In that correspondence, Arachi described beheadings and brutal attacks that he said were carried out against both law enforcement personnel and civilian bystanders. Arachi argued that these violent acts demonstrated that the original protests had been hijacked and redirected by organized terrorist groups. He additionally alleged that Israeli intelligence operatives or spies were present among the protesters taking part in demonstrations in different parts of Iran. Iran's envoy at the United Nations likewise said that the country has been confronting and dealing with terrorism linked to Islamic State-style organizations.
Mr. President, between 8 and 10 January 26, the people and government of the Islamic Republic of Iran were confronted with ISIS-style acts of terrorism and extreme violence across the country. Peaceful protests that began on 28 December 2025 with legitimate economic demands were deliberately hijacked by organized armed groups and transformed into violent riots. Documented cases include beheading, people being burned alive, police officers and ordinary citizens beaten to death, widespread use of firearms, and the deliberate torching of ambulances, fire engines, health facilities, residential buildings, and places of worship. These were not isolated incidents. They reflect a clear and systematic pattern of organized violence. A significant number of police officers were killed or severely injured. These heavy casualties demonstrate the extreme brutality of terrorist elements. The situation is, in fact, very simple. The United States regime and its accomplices, particularly the Israeli regime, cannot evade responsibility for the innocent blood that has been shed in my country. Unable to achieve their objectives through the 12-day war of aggression against Iran in June 2025, they have now sought to pursue the same goals through political destabilization, internal unrest, and chaos. This strategy relies on manufacturing casualties, spreading false and inflated figures, and creating a pretext for foreign intervention. It is a familiar script, one that has been used repeatedly from Iraq to Libya and to Venezuela.
Iranian leaders more broadly have been blaming supposed foreign plots for the unrest and have repeated this line since the protests first erupted in December. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, said it had successfully confronted what it called a U.S.-Israeli drive aimed at sowing unrest inside Iran. Further details of Iranian security measures against this alleged U.S.-Israeli effort were made public in a report released on January 9. That report stated that protesters allegedly linked to U.S. and Israel spy agencies had been detained in the southern regions of Iran. According to the IRGC, 31 people who were, in its account, ready to cooperate with Israel's Mossad intelligence service were identified and confronted. The report further alleged that U.S. and Israel-linked elements had been tasked with triggering chaos and disorder on the streets of Iranian cities. The IRGC also claimed to have dismantled and eliminated several teams associated with counter-revolutionary elements operating inside the country. In addition, the Corps reported the arrest of the ringleader of a team it linked to separatist ethnic groups active in or near border areas. This group was, according to the IRGC report, planning a terrorist attack targeting 2 separate military bases in Iranian border regions. Days after these Iranian claims were publicized, Donald Trump said that sources on the other side had informed him about Iran's planned executions of protesters. Around the same period, the United States conducted airstrikes in December on alleged Islamic State-linked targets in Syria and Nigeria, actions that formed part of its wider counterterrorism operations. In 2024, Islamic State also carried out a mass shooting at the Crocus City Hall concert venue in Russia. During this assault, 4 gunmen killed 149 people and wounded 609 others, while causing an estimated $76.4 million in material damage. A subsequent Russian investigation identified 19 individuals as perpetrators, accomplices, and arms suppliers, all of whom were described as members or associates of Islamic State. The investigation also concluded that the attack had been carried out in the interests of Ukraine, according to Russian authorities' official statements.